Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Bebo. In this video, we're going to continue our conversation on applying integer operations, also known as how do we solve problems involving more than one integer operation. And this means we have to follow our order of operations, so PEMDAS, right? So as a quick reminder on how PEMDAS works, remember it's parentheses followed by exponents, then we go multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right. So we have several examples here on this slide. We're going to be looking again at these algebraic expressions. So anytime we're working with these algebraic expressions, just again, be careful, be cautious of what those variables values are and make sure that you're plugging in the correct values. So let's take a look at the first one. With the first question, we have x times y divided by w plus v. So x in this case is negative 12. So we're going to have negative 12 multiplied by y, which is 8, divided by w, which is 4, plus v, which is a negative 64. So now we're going to go through and follow our order of operations. So we're actually going to start with the top of this, what looks like a fraction, right? So essentially those two are grouped above the 4. So we're going to do negative 12 times 8, which is going to be a negative 96. And we still have that divided by 4, and then we still have that plus negative 64 hanging out on the end. Next step in our order of operations, we need to take care of this division. So we're going to do negative 96 divided by 4, and we're going to find that that is going to be a negative 24. Again, we still have this plus negative 64 hanging out. We haven't done anything with that yet, but that is actually our next step. We're going to add these two integers together. What's really nice, they are the same sign, you add like normal and keep the sign. So we're going to have negative 24 plus negative 64. That is going to be a negative 88. And that's it for this question. Now for the second one we see here, we have x squared divided by y minus the grouping of wx, so w times x, plus y. So we have quite a bit going on in this question. So first step, plug in what those values actually are so we can actually solve this, right? We can't solve it until those actually have some values to them. So x squared, that is going to turn into negative 12 squared, and it is the entire negative 12 that is being squared. Minus, we still have this dividing here. So sorry, negative 12 squared divided by y, which is 8. Then we have minus, and then what's in grouping symbols, we have wx, so 4 times negative 12, plus, and then the y, which is 8. All right, so now we're going to go through and we can do a couple things, kind of like in the last video, we can actually do a couple of these steps at the same time. So we can actually take care of this exponent as well as what's inside the parentheses. Now, inside parentheses, you have to follow order of operations. So inside the parentheses here, right, we have 4 times negative 12 plus 8. We're going to have to do the multiplying first because, again, that comes before addition and subtraction when we do order of operations. So we're going to do 4 times negative 12, that's inside the parentheses. So what this is going to look like then, well, negative 12 squared, that's negative 12 times negative 12, so that's going to be a positive 144 divided by 8, minus, and then in parentheses, 4 times negative 12 is going to be a negative 48. Then we have this plus 8 still inside the parentheses. So now inside the parentheses, we can finish this out. We can actually figure out what negative 48 plus 8 is. We also could technically do that division at the same time, but I'll save that for the next step. So we'll do 144 divided by 8 minus, and then inside the parentheses, negative 48 plus 8 is going to be a negative 40. All right, so now we're going to do this division here. So the 144 divided by 8, which is 18. So we're going to have 18 minus a negative 40. So we're going to keep change at this step because, again, we're subtracting. So that's our trick. Keep change. So it turns in 18 plus positive 40. And that is going to be 58. All right, so one more example on this slide. We have y to the third divided by w squared minus, and then in parentheses, v plus x times y. So y to the third, we're going to have 8 to the third. I'm actually going to rewrite this so that it's over to the side. I'm going to need a little bit more space. So 8 to the third over w squared, so 4 squared, minus, and then again, v is negative 64 plus x, which is negative 12, times y, which is 8. All right. So again, with this, we can do a couple of steps at the same time. We actually can do our exponents simultaneously. We also can do what's inside the parentheses. So let's start with that 8 to the third. So that means you're doing 8 times 8 times 8, which ends up being 512. And then that 4 squared is going to be 16, right? So 4 times 4, which is 16. Then inside the parentheses here, so we have subtracting, and then we have negative 64 plus, we're going to go ahead and do that multiplying. So negative 12 times 8, which is negative 96. All right, so now we're going to go through, we'll finish out what's inside the parentheses there. So we're going to do negative 64 plus negative 96. The nice thing is that they are the same sign, so you're just going to add like normal and keep the sign. So we're going to have 512 over 16 minus, and then in parentheses here, this is going to be negative 160. 512 divided by 16 is going to be our next step. So 512 divided by 16 is going to be 32 minus, and then negative 160. Again, when we're subtracting integers, the trick is to keep, change, change. So we're going to have 32 plus positive 160, and adding those two values together, we're going to get an answer of 192. All right, so let's take a look at some story problems involving integers. So for this first one, it says the average temperature in January in Helsinki, Finland is about -5 degrees Celsius. We're going to use the expression 9C plus 160 divided by 5, where C is the temperature in degrees Celsius, to find the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. Round to the nearest degree if necessary. So the only thing that we have to worry about in this problem, we don't have to come up with a formula. They tell us that. We just have to know what C is so that we can properly do this temperature conversion. Well, in the problem, they tell me that this average temperature is -5 degrees Celsius. So that's going to be our value for C inside of this expression. So we're going to have 9 times -5 plus 160 divided by 5. And now we just follow our order of operations and then evaluate. So we're going to start at the top. We're going to be doing this 9 times -5 first. That is going to be a -45. Then we still have that plus 160 at the top of our grouping symbol, because that fraction bar, remember, is a grouping symbol. It's grouping the top from the bottom. So we have -45 plus 160, all of that being divided by 5. So that -45 plus 160, we're going to solve that piece next. Since they're different signs, the trick is to subtract. And so that's going to end up being 115. And it's a positive because we have more positives over 5. So now we just had to figure out what 115 divided by 5 is. And so doing that division, we're going to find that our answer is 23. And then we do need a label on this problem. So 23 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's it for that story problem. All right, last one. So on this last example, it says the table gives the income and expenses of a rental company for 1 year. Use the expression I minus E divided by 12, where I represents the total income and E represents the total expenses, to find the average difference between the company's income and expenses each month. So again, they give us the expression, they give us the formula. All we have to do is plug in those values so that we can actually figure out what the average differences between the company's income and expenses are. So our expenses are $72,000 and our income is $64,200. So that table tells us that information there. And so my income, so we have $64,200 minus my expenses, so $72,000. All of that going to be divided by 12. So we're just going to be taking that $72,000 and we're going to subtract the $64,200 from it, because again, we can rewrite this as keep, change, change, right? So it's $64,200 plus a negative $72,000, and then our trick is to subtract the two and keep the sign of what you have more of. So when we subtract those two values, we do end up with a negative, and then it's $7,800. And now our last step is to divide that answer by 12. And so we end up with an answer of negative $650, and in this case it would be dollars. So that is the average difference between the company's income and expenses each month. So hopefully that helps you again with solving these integer operation problems that involve more than one operation. Just remember those order of operations. Thanks for watching.